The start of draft season can only mean one thing. It's mock draft time, so let's dive into mock draft 3.0 over here at Best Available. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. Make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube and follow us on socials at Best Available YT. Before we get into the mock, if you are a huge draft fan, want to find a way to support the channel, and get full access to my entire big board, consider becoming a member. I'll leave details to that in the episode description, but I know why you're here. Let's get into it. We got plenty to cover in today's episode. So many picks to dive into, so let's just go right into it, starting with the first overall pick. And it should be no surprise. I mean, I think it's been pretty much clear since Tom Brady, John Spytek, Mark Davis, the entire Raiders, just power structure arrived to Miami to watch Fernando Mendoza win the national championship. They hired Clint Kubiak, who's an offensive-minded coach. This should be a no-brainer with Mendoza. I'm very curious to see how his career unfolds in Las Vegas because, he is such a composed quarterback. He can play so well under duress. He's got that quick release. He's obviously a tank. I hope they can just be patient and build around him. I am very excited to see what the future holds for Mendoza in Vegas. I am an IU grad, so I'll be rooting for this kid the rest of his life after winning a national title. So that one's pretty straightforward. Let's move on to number 2 with the Jets, who are in a much tougher situation. They're trying to consider what they want. You could say an edge, but it feels like with Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson, they at least have a couple that they like. And you could where I'm just in so many different places with this pick. Honestly, I could fully see them trading back. But for the sake of this argument, let's just say I think a piece that would be really fun for this defense is Arvell Reese. He can play a bit of edge. I think his more natural position is edge. But after watching how Nick Emmanwori unlocked a lot of what the Seahawks want to do defensively, I could envision Arvell Reese being another one of these chess pieces for a Jets defense. It's already pretty in a solid place up front in the trenches, and I think a player like Reese unlocks a lot. He can roam sideline to sideline as an off-ball guy, or just go ahead and get after the passer off the edge. He has such a unique body type, athletic profile. He'll just be a really fun player that you kind of plug in a couple different places. And, Aaron Glenn is a defensive-minded guy, I imagine, could have an exact plan in place for a guy like Reese. So that's where I'm going to put him with the Jets at number 2. It shouldn't be a huge surprise. At number 3, I know it's not a listed need on here right now, but, with Josh Sweat, I know he's an expensive player, and he is a productive one. They just don't have a lot of pass rushing options outside of him. And I thought the pressure numbers last season, especially with Gannon as a defensive-minded head coach, were pretty disappointing. I'd rather just be more comfortable getting an edge here, bolstering it, and having a guy that can not only play edge, but play a little D-end or kick inside when needed, and that's Ruben Bain out of Miami. If you watch any of the playoff games or just watch Miami at any point this year, that Bain is an absolute force in the trenches. There's going to be a lot of argument and discourse, especially around the combine, about his arm length and things like that. But he plays with his hair on fire for a guy that's around 280 pounds. His bend is ridiculous. He can fly around the edge. He can bully defenders at the point of attack, or blockers at the point of attack, I should say. He really is a dominant 3-down player, and if you want to kick him inside at times, I'm totally cool with it. He's so powerful. He's got some rare fluidity for a guy of that size. I think he is going to be a game changer, and I really like the idea of him on that defense. I know the Cardinals have so many other things to worry about, including offensive line. I think it would be foolish to pass up on a player like Ruben Bain, so we're going to take him here at number 3. Number 4 with the Titans. You've drafted your hopefully franchise quarterback. You've got some good tackles, but I'd still like some O-line depth here, and that's where I'm going Francis Maui Noah. I do have a top 10. He's in my top 10 on my current big board, so I'm comfortable taking him at 4. Maybe it is a little bit of a reach, but he is my number 1 ranked offensive lineman. What I love about him, he probably doesn't have the greatest length, and there's some deficiencies at tackle, but if you kick him inside to guard, it's a perfect blend of his skill set. This is a dude that loves to lower his pads, drive his legs, and move bodies in the run game. And he's got an anchor as a pass protector. He does have some good hand usage, and it flashes a couple times in pass protection as well. But, can look a little stiff against speed rushers around the edge. And there's just a couple things deficiency-wise where I don't know if tackles his long-term home at the NFL. That works out great for the Titans. They just need some guards. They need some ways to bolster this offensive line. A team with a lot of needs, I think, I don't think they're in a position to take a luxury pick or a skill position this early. As much as you like to get, Cam Ward another weapon, I think first and foremost you just need to keep him alive. And so I think that's where a guy like Francis Maui Noah makes a lot of sense to me at number 4. The Giants might really have something on offense with Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo, Malik Neighbors, and I know the offensive line has some question marks, but with Maui Noah off the board, I'm comfortable taking a swing on a wide receiver, get that number 2 opposite of Neighbors, especially if they lose some, receivers, whether it's Wandale Robinson or someone else in free agency. So give me Carnell Tate, and let me tell you, that is such an exciting player for the Giants, just someone that moves so fluidly, whether it's he's running short intermediate routes or even the way he just sets up to run deep. He's got like true long top end speed. But at the same time, he has this fluidity where he's getting into those vertical routes. He can just kind of catch you off guard with some of his subtle movements. He is my wide receiver 1, and it's a loaded class, even at the top. But there are things that Carnell Tate does that just blow me away. I don't think anyone in this draft class can do. I think the pairing of Tate and Neighbors with Jackson Dart throwing the ball, that is such an exciting offense to think about in hypotheticals. I think Tate could be a real difference maker on that Giants offense. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is the long-term answer for the Browns, but at the very least, you need to see if he can do anything next year. And whether it's him in 2027 or someone else, you just have to build out this offensive line. And that's where I feel pretty good about taking Spencer Fano, number 6 out of Utah. Really fun player. He may not have like the total play strength. I think he is more naturally his skill set a left tackle over a right tackle. But what I love about this guy, he has some really good moves where he will just bait pass rushers. How you like try and strike and engage with a pass rusher. He'll like fake that he's about to strike, and then you'll watch that like pass rushers immediately try to get into their move. And then it gives Fano enough time to react to it. It's like a really rare skill set from a tackle. He's a really fun player. I don't care where you want to put him. I think he could theoretically play, all over the line, but I think left tackle makes sense. Right tackle, he's just obviously comfortable with it. With the Utes, really fun player. I think he is just needed, and for the Browns, just build out that offensive line, get it to a spot where you can figure out what you want to do at quarterback in the coming years. But just build out that because you don't want another situation where you have another quarterback come in with no offensive line and they just get murdered. I'm tempted to go with Caleb Downs here, but I'm not going to. I'm going to tell you why. I think the most productive pass rusher on the Commanders last year was Von Miller, and he is so close to retiring. He might retire this offseason. I really don't know. And they just need some pass rushing juice. I think that just cures so many other issues on a defense when you have a top tier pass rusher, which is why David Bailey makes so much sense. This is a guy with terrific length, crazy speed off the edge. He can dip down, maybe a little stiff, but I don't think that's entirely fair because he can dip and bend around the edge. And then he's got a nasty spin move on top of that. He's a really fun player. He can engage the point of attack, get really extended. This is a potential game changer on this Commanders defense that just so desperately needs more answers at rushing the passer, especially with Von Miller. Who knows what's going to go on with that situation. Just think he would be a difference maker on this defense. Get Tyler Shuck another weapon. Chris Olave, just with all the concussion concerns, he's still a damn good player, but losing Rashid Shaheed means that we need another guy here. And I think Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State makes so much sense. He's someone I actually watched in 2024, and the year-over-year difference making his route running. Like, he is truly like committed to that craft. That's got me really excited because I've always kind of seen him as a contested catch guy. He's got good body control on the sideline. He can make a lot of tough catches, but now that he can separate consistently like he did this past season, blown away. This is a game-changing kind of player. You pair him with Olave. I know you're kind of losing that deep threat with Rashid Shaheed in Seattle, but that is a clear weapon that is a value add for this offense. Tyler Shuck might be the real deal. Give him another weapon like Tyson. Let's see what he can do next season. If you're a Chiefs fan, you're probably really excited about this one. It's Jeremiah Love to the Chiefs. One of the better running backs in recent years, especially from a measurables and athletic profile standpoint. Just big, long, addicted to hurdling, which might scare you, but he makes so many incredible plays in his vision once he hits that second level to generate explosives. It's one of the more fun skill sets I've seen from a running back in some time. But on top of that, it's his effort, whether it's as a lead blocker in pass protection or even just fighting like hell near the goal line. That play 2 seasons ago, Penn State college football playoff, where he's just like willing himself into the end zone on a bad knee. He screams competitive toughness. As long as his medicals check out, that's a top 10 pick in my eyes. He is one of the 3 best players in this draft class. And him in Kansas City with Mahomes would be awfully exciting for that offense. If you're a Chiefs fan, I get some people you just can't stand the Chiefs anymore, but I would love to see Love in an offense like that one. The Bengals front office would be having a celebration in the war room if this happened in the draft, because if Caleb Downs slides to number 10, that's a difference maker on the defense they've been desperately needing for all the times they're trying to emphasize the trenches. At some point, they do need an impact kind of player in the secondary. And boy, is Caleb Downs that. Elite instincts, elite tackling technique. I know he might be on quote unquote the smaller end, but I don't know if I've seen a better tackler at the safety position than Downs. He does so much well and can play so many roles, wear so many hats for your secondary. He is one of, like, even since he was a freshman in Alabama, it was just so clear this kid was going to be a first round pick. He just checks like every single box I think I want at the safety. I'm too young to have scouted Ed Reed, but I am comfortable saying that Caleb Downs is probably the best safety prospect I've scouted in my lifetime, or 12 years of doing this. First, quote unquote, riskier pick here with the Dolphins, but I'm giving them Jermod McCoy out of Tennessee. There's so much that we're gonna have to learn in the pre-draft process about his medicals. He had a torn ACL, did not play this season. I think there was a bigger concern that he didn't play in the Senior Bowl or Shrine Bowl. But we got questions. But when you turn on that 2024 tape, man, this is a twitchy, long, fluid player. He sticks to receivers like glue. He can trigger downhill well. He's got some length. Like he checks a lot of boxes in corner. He is my number 1 corner just based off the tape. I am excited to get downtown, since I'm just around the corner in Indianapolis, to hear anything I can about McCoy's medicals, because that is one of the bigger questions at the combine. Is this guy that's a top tier draft prospect? How is that knee going to check out? And is he going to be ready for to play? Because not playing all last season, we got a lot of questions about him. But if you want to know about an impact corner, turn on that 2024 tape of McCoy. And I imagine the Dolphins will be doing their homework, because that is a realistic target for them at 11. Tempted to pick a pass rusher here for the Cowboys, but I see Sonny Styles on the board, and I know how frustrated Cowboys fans were their linebackers last year, and I know Overshown, I believe, was missing a big part of the year. But let's get them an impact player who can do a lot of everything. Sonny Styles is a freak of nature at the linebacker position. I mean, you're looking at him here. We've got him listed at 6'5" and 243 pounds. That is not a normal linebacker. That is a freak of nature. He's crazy long, super aggressive, triggering downhill. He is willing and able to take on blockers. He just kind of manhandles guys sometimes when he's closing downhill, taking on a block, throwing them off to make a play on the running back. His length makes him an asset in coverage as well. He is one of these one-of-one rare body types at off-ball linebacker, and I know they want a pass rusher, the Cowboys do, but get me a Sonny Styles on that defense. He can play a lot of roles, and I think he can fix a lot of the issues this defense had last season. We're going to talk about quarterback with the Rams in a little bit, because I know that's one of the biggest questions about this draft is this finally the year that the Rams pull the trigger and find Stafford's successor, which is kind of ironic that it's in a rough quarterback class. But with this first play, like, if you want to compete right away, you need a cornerback. Like, this secondary got exposed bad at times last season, really hurt them. They were in a legitimate chance to win a Super Bowl this year. But I think addressing the cornerback position is a wise move, which is why I would take Mansour Delane out of LSU. A player I really, really have enjoyed since his time at Virginia Tech. He plays with his hair on fire. He feels like an ideal man coverage corner. Very physical. He just checks a lot of boxes for me with that size, length, and the way he's wired. I mean, even back to that Virginia Tech, he wanted those tough competitions, and you could see that, like, even body language wise, he thrived in those situations. A guy I've been a huge fan of for a while. And I know that LSU defense, or that LSU team as a whole, was a mess last year, but Delane is one of those guys, and I think he is more than worthy of being an early first-round pick. Lamar Jackson needs weapons. The tight ends, there's a lot of questions there. Zay Flowers is a rock-solid slide. Give me Mekhi Lemon as your potential, like, quote unquote Z receiver. This is a dude that just has, breakaway speed, especially after the catch. He can make some guys miss. He is a legitimate deep threat, and he's got some contested catchability to him. Maybe a smaller frame than some people like, but when you watch him, he's just kind of a blur out there, really twitchy with that body control to make tough catches. If you turn on that Illinois game, especially, that was like my first game where I circled this guy. Like, this guy might be a little bit different. Um, and he's kind of, there's some people that are really high on him, some people are really low on him. But at the end of the day, in a loaded receiver class, he is near the top. He will be a first round pick, and I love the idea of pairing him and Flowers, giving you a couple separators at wide receiver, and then go and find a big body X, and then all of a sudden this offense, might have a legitimate passing game next season because Lamar just desperately needs some kind of innovation or additions to this offense to really get going again, find his rhythm in 2026. I'm not going to overthink this one with the Bucks. I'm going to go Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. He is more than worthy of being a top 15 prospect in this draft class. Really built, maybe a little compact, but he is so well built. He is a real like seam stretcher, can carry up the field, can run some routes, and then honestly, as far as like a move tight end, really good blocking in a variety of different roles. Whether it's in the backfield as almost a fullback, as a wing, in line. He can block in a variety of ways and really open up the run game for you. And I think this offense is kind of missing someone like that. Like, they've got their receivers, like Buka, Mike Evans. Get me a Kenyon Sadiq to kind of stretch the field as a slot, but move all over the place, especially with a quarterback like Baker Mayfield and a running game that features Bucky Irving. A guy like Sadiq can open up both the run and pass game for Tampa Bay. All right, the Jets got their chess piece, linebacker edge, and Arvell Reese with their first round pick. Give me Peter Woods to shore up that defense. And he's sliding a little bit, but I don't really get why. I know the tape wasn't as good in 2025, but this is still a really dominant defensive lineman in my eyes. He can really just, for as big of a body as he is, he can flash and slant into other gaps. He's got a little bit of juice as a pass rusher. He can really hold his own at the point of attack, and his highs on tape are just dominant. Like, he can be a one-man wrecking crew in the middle of the defense. You add that to what they already have, plus Arvell Reese on this defense. I know there's some questions about the secondary and all that getting fixed, but we keep talking about it. If you have the trenches figured out, it makes the cornerbacks' jobs so much easier. And I think Woods is a really exciting piece to add to that front seven, especially after losing a guy like Quinnen Williams. Give me Woods in the interior. Go let him wreak havoc. On to the second half of the first round. And for the Detroit Lions, I see a guy like Keldrick Falk, and I just imagine Dan Campbell falling in love with him. This is like a 6'6" DN, and what I love about this guy, he plays with great pad level. For a guy as tall as he is, he can really get in the trenches, engage, stay low, and then edge set, blow blockers back. Be a real asset in the run game, and then still bring that juice as a pass rusher. Marcus Davenport, I believe, is entering free agency. Falk feels like a really logical, plug and play, and just replace Davenport with Falk. Give me that big-bodied, edge-setting presence opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, and really get to work next season and try and reclaim their dominance they had just a couple years ago. Secondary is a big issue for the Minnesota Vikings. So give me Avion Terrell, another cornerback I really trust coming out of Clemson. He may be a tick undersized, but man, is he competitive and instinctive. He has got great IQ and zone coverage, really knows how to anticipate throws, diagnose route concepts. And yeah, he might not have the best length, might not be the best man coverage corner, but I just really like a lot of the tools he brings and his instincts. I think he's a really fun player to fit into this defense. Maybe the man coverage things might shy away Brian Flores, since him and Kevin O'Connell, imagine, have a big part of the draft class this year. And maybe they go for another more man-heavy corner based on Flores likes to just blitz like mad. But the competitiveness and instincts of Terrell alone would make me really excited to take him, especially after a couple of these other corners are already off the board. Derek Brown can only do so much. One of my favorite players in the NFL, just a dominant defensive tackle, but he's going to need some help in the trenches. Now imagine putting a big boy like Caleb Banks next to him. We're talking about a 6'6", 330-pound presence in the middle of that defense. And man, you watch the Senior Bowl, because he didn't play a lot this season for the Florida Gators, but those one-on-ones in Senior Bowl, you see a guy of his size, he does not move like a 330-pound tackle. You could, if Banks hits like we think he might as a potential first-round defensive lineman, him and Brown might be one of the scariest defensive line duos in the NFL, hands down. Would be really fun to see in Carolina, see what they could potentially do with a guy like Banks. All right, the Cowboys can get their edge rusher now, and a guy I like Donovan Ezeraku is one of these like speed, fluid, got some wiggle bend to him edge rushers. But then give me a power rusher on the other end with TJ Parker. That's 3 Clemson players and 6 picks. But I'm telling you, man, this Clemson defense was legit last year as far as talent wise. It was a really disappointing season, but there were some real players on there. And TJ Parker is one of these power rushers I really like. He feels very comfortable with that forward lean. He can get engaged. He can drive his legs through contact. And he's got a bit of a bag for a pass rusher. A fun addition. I think he complements what Ezeraku does, differently and well. I think that's a nice pairing. You're never going to replace Micah Parsons, but trying to rebuild him in the aggregate, I think Parker is a step in the right direction. Got our first trade. Here it is. The Seattle Seahawks trading up to try and get an impact player. And the Steelers trading out back into the end of the first round. And the Seahawks are doing this a bit cheekily, which is going to devastate Chargers fans. But they see who's on the board next. With the Chargers, they're climbing up and they're going to get Ione. I'm probably butchering his name, but the Penn State guard who I've watched plenty of, and is probably the best guard, or at least near the top of this class, and a real impact player. Just want to talk about a real dense, powerful player that can move bodies in the run game and anchor down against bull rushes. It's kind of that power presence. Guard was kind of a weak link for the Seahawks defense this year, trading up to make sure they can get a guard, a starting caliber guard in the first round. And if John Schneider makes this move, it's just more of a, like, we feel set everywhere else. Let's just take a swing on that guard, know that he's going to be there at 21, trade up, give up some assets, but just try and compete and try and go back to back. These poor damn Chargers, man, just losing out on the guard. Don't know if they'd feel comfortable at 22 taking another one that quickly based on the value on the board. So the Los Angeles Rams are going to trade up with them. They're going to talk, probably just walk across the hallway and be like, hey, do you want this guy? And then, here we go, Rams on the board. And we talked about it, like, what are the Rams going to do for a quarterback? I'm going to give you a quarterback right here in Trinidad Chambliss. Probably some questions about whether or not he's going to declare yet. It's such a weird situation. If you've been following along the channel, we've been talking about it ad nauseum the last week. Just thought I'd give an update in this video. It is Thursday evening right now, and an Ole Miss or a Mississippi judge just announced that Trinidad Chambliss was granted another year of eligibility. The NCAA plans to appeal. Signs look like they're pointing towards Chambliss playing in 2026. So we're going to still include it in the mock draft. I'm still working on editing this. I just wanted to add this video for added context. If you're like, why is Chambliss in this mock draft? Given the news from, if you're watching this on Friday, then last night. But just wanted to include that in here. With all the editing that takes place. It's just not going to be able to mess with the mock draft. Signs are pointing to Chambliss going to the NCAA, but it is not guaranteed yet. But wanted to make sure that we address the news that you're not confused as why he's still in here. But if Chambliss declares, he is a no-brainer first-round pick for me late in the first round. I love the idea of him getting to sit behind Stafford, learn from him, a guy with as much arm talent in this class as just about anyone in Chambliss. Plus, he's got the mobility and everything like that. Just love the idea of him learning behind Stafford with Sean McVay, Cliff Kingsbury, now on that staff. The Rams might make another quarterback pick in this draft if Chambliss doesn't declare, but for the sake of this mock, man, I love the idea of Chambliss behind Stafford. We got some real questions about what's about to happen with this Eagles offensive line. Jeff Stoutland's resigning. He's not retiring, but he is leaving, and he's one of the greatest offensive line coaches maybe the NFL has ever seen. Like names like Howard Mudd are right up there with him, even like Bill Callahan. But Stoutland had done such a great job. What does the future hold for guys like Lane Johnson? Do you find your successor here? And when I think of that, I see Monroe Freeling on the board out of Georgia. A guy I did not like as a Georgia fan for a couple years, or even pay attention to at times, but thought he made really impressive strides this year. And such a massive presence on the on the offense at 6'7". He has such an intriguing combination of like size, fluidity, and strength. You got to improve his technique a bit for him to be, a truly reliable starter. But I think that makes this even more appealing if Lane Johnson stays one more year. You draft a guy like Freeland to be a successor. Maybe he has to kick in and play some guard at times. Maybe just to fill in at times at a couple of positions. But this guy screams right tackle to me. And I think getting the right tackle of the future, whether Lane Johnson retires this year, next, whatever happens, I really like the idea of Freeling in Philadelphia. Looking at the board, the Browns have already taken an offensive lineman. We can give them Denzel Boston. Very rare to see a receiver of Boston's size also be a return specialist, but that's what he was for the Washington Huskies. And when you turn on the tape at receiver, you very quickly understand why. He's a 6'4", 209-pound receiver, and obviously a guy like that, just very excellent body control, be a jump ball specialist, all of that. But he does have enough play speed to take things over the top, and he's got some wiggle for a guy that size. It's why he was a returner as well. Just a really unique skill set for a 6'4" wide receiver. And, with Cleveland's current weapons, I think it's a nice fit for the rest of their receivers. Give me another big body guy. You just kind of throw up, go up and get it, regardless of who's playing quarterback for the Browns. I just kind of like that idea. The Bears need to keep shoring up that defense. The offense seems like it has plenty of weapons to work with. They did a great job revamping that offensive line this past year. So give me Caden McDonald in the trenches. Now I know the linebackers and edges of Ohio State and Caleb Downs get a lot of credit in this defense, but Caden McDonald is unbelievable this year. Just an immensely powerful nose at 326 pounds with elite tier upper body strength, but he's also got that twitch explosiveness. To really just be a 3-down defender in my eyes. I think he can stop the run, rush the passer, collapse a pocket. Really fun player. I don't think got enough love on that defense last year. In my eyes, he's a no doubt first round pick, and I do hope and think that scouts are going to feel the same way. The Bills are hungry for an elite pass rusher. The Joey Bosa signing, had some flashes, but he is an aging veteran. Give me a guy like Cassius Howell. Let's just get some freaking speed on the edge because, guys like AJ Epinesa and all these big body rushers can only do so much. I want just a freak athlete that can fly around to the edge, and Howell is that. I'm not sure Howell is a 3-down player yet. I have some concerns about his lighter frame, more compact against the run, but you talk about a pure pass rusher. Howell is probably the best in this class. He does some freaky stuff as a pass rusher, flying, great first step explosiveness, excellent bend around the edge. He can really just tighten his path to the quarterback, and they may not even be at the end of their drop by the time Howell's generating pressure, getting sacks. Really, really fun player. I think Bills fans will be thrilled to have a guy like that because it's just the kind of piece they're missing to help unlock parts of this defense. One of my favorite players in the draft class is Casey Concepcion, who just feels like such a nice fit in what the 49ers need after the departure of Deebo Samuel. Jawan Jennings ending free agency. I hope he comes back because with the Brandon Ayuk situation, they just need a reliable veteran. And I think, Jawan Jennings is quite a good player. But Concepcion, man, is so fun. He's got really good deep speed, really nuanced route running, a little bit of a smaller frame, but he's got the body control to improve his catch radius as a smaller guy. Such a blur. Even at NC State, he was an incredible player to me. Concepcion's one of these guys that's just such a nuanced, fun player. I think he can play a little slot, a little outside, kind of a versatile chess piece. It feels like a Shanahan dream, honestly, as a potential, wide receiver target. They really just need some more weapons for Brock Purdy in this offense. Concepcion screams like excellent home run pick for the 49ers. There's a couple directions I could go here, but let's go Lee Hunter for the Texans. I just think building and making a strength and continuing to make it a strength is wise. The entire identity of the Texans this year was defense. You've got some elite edge rushers in Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson. You got Jalen Petrie. You got Derek Stingley. Azeez Al-Shaair, a controversial player, but an effective one. So many players. Let's get an impact defensive lineman, a big body in Lee Hunter who, has great, got great quickness and hand usage, and I'm a little disappointed as far as his leg drive and overall play strength for a potential nose, but the quickness and gap penetration ability of him, and if you can continue to get him to bolster his play strength and improve his leg drive, that is a very disruptive defensive lineman on a defense full of headhunters. I think it'd be a really fun addition to that squad. This one might be a little bit of the reach for the Chargers, but they are starving for offensive line help. You got to pray Rashawn Slater and Joe Alder healthy at tackle. You're set there. The interior is going to need some work, but I really like Emmanuel Pregnon. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea. He can look a bit stiff at times, but I think he is a powerful, powerful presence on the middle of an offensive line. And what I love about him is he's always looking for work. When you're in pass protection, he doesn't have a guy he's going to look and try and knock someone's head off. He's a guy I feel like he's still learning the nuances of the game, but his body type and strength component to his game, I think he can be a starter in this league. Again, I am higher on him. I'm comfortable late first round taking a pick on him, even if I think it's a little bit of a reach. But especially for the Chargers, like just they are starving. They're begging for interior offensive line help. And after trading back and getting some more, draft capital, I'm comfortable enough here taking Pregnon at 29. Plenty of different routes you could go here for the Broncos. They're setting so many spots, but I love the idea of CJ Allen on this defense. A really underrated linebacker in this draft class. Not only is Allen an athlete, but he's also very technically refined, whether it's taking on blocks, hitting his drops in zone, all of that. I would like to see a bit more, urgency with the way he plays at times. I think that's a little nitpicky. He fits a lot of the tools and traits, and I love the idea of him being in the middle of such a dominant Broncos defense, a place where he can swim and not drown. He doesn't have to do it all himself in the middle of a defense. It feels like the right home for him, where he can get settled, not have to do too much, and then still, as he gets more and more comfortable, still be an impact player for this defense. Tricky one for the Patriots at 31, and this might be a bit of a hot take because he's not even my favorite tackle, but the idea of Caden Proctor could make a lot of sense on this staff if you can develop him the right way. The idea of having Caden Proctor as your left tackle and kicking Will Campbell inside to guard, I still think Will Campbell can play tackle, but when I'm just looking from a value perspective of what's on the board, Proctor is still a project, but he is a rare kind of athlete at his size, listed at 6'7" and 366 pounds. Just an absurd size. If you can get the right coaching around him, get him to develop, because you still see those flashes where you can just shut people down, but then there's other times it just looks too ugly for a guy that's protecting your quarterback's blind side. Maybe you just make it a left tackle competition with Will Campbell. Maybe you consider Proctor as a Morgan Moses successor at right. Like there's a lot of things you could do with Proctor. With the board laid out, I just like the idea of let's just take a swing, see what we can do, because we just need offensive line help in general. And from a value perspective, I think he's the best offensive lineman on the board and one that can give you some versatility on that unit. All right, we're going to wrap up with the Steelers, who have traded back to 32. I'm giving them the quarterback. I'm giving them Ty Simpson. We don't know what's happening with Aaron Rodgers. We really don't. There's so many other questions that we have about that situation, but I just think that he could be a successor to Aaron Rodgers as a backup. He's on the smaller end, but he's got a lot more live arm than you expect, some good play speed. Clearly a coach's son is the way he processes information, goes through his reads. I just think the situation he was in Alabama was pretty, crappy. You're spending your whole career as a backup behind Bryce Young and Jalen Milroe. Finally get the chance to start, and you have no running game, and the offensive line's kind of a mess. I would love to see him, sit a year at the NFL level and then see if he can start. It is a bit of a risk. I don't see like star quarterback in him, but I think with the right scheme and everything like that, he can be a starting quarterback in this league. I do have a day 2 grade on him, full disclosure, but for the Steelers, as we're recording this right now, we really don't know what's happening at quarterback. I think getting some competition in that room, not knowing what happens to Aaron Rodgers, is at least a wise move. There you have it. That is today's mock draft. We will have more of these throughout the pre-draft process. Make sure to subscribe if you made it this far. And a reminder, next week is cornerbacks week. Per Justice's request, we'll have our top 10 corners. We'll have our draft talk with Justice. We'll have a breakdown of one corner that we haven't talked about yet in detail on this channel. And then we'll do something fun on Friday. So 4 videos next week. That's what will be the cadence going forward. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week. Thanks for following around the mock draft and watching. Best available.